apologize for having disturbed you on a restricted holiday on the Ganesh Chaturthi festival. And Dr. Rajesh Bhopre was very apprehensive that we may not be able to have any audience, at least of all the media friends. But I'm glad. That, of course, doesn't in any way lessen your faith or belief in Lord Ganesha. So, but at the same time also, we can have the satisfaction of telling ourselves that you are equally dedicated to the cause of biotechnology. So thank you very much for this encouraging response. Now, I think at the outset I must compliment Dr. Rajesh. Soon after the Prime Minister's address was over, on the 15th of August, the first call that I received, in fact, a message before that WhatsApp call, call. He was so excited that the Honorable Prime Minister had made a mention of BIOE3 policy and done that quite elaborately, very convincingly, because when Prime Minister speaks something in his independent state, it not only becomes a declaration of intent for the government in place, but is also taken very seriously across the country and even outside, and also sets the priority of the government in place. And therefore, one day later, he suggested to me that now, to live up to the tall order that Prime Minister has placed before us, we should be doing something. So I said, okay, you create something, and I'm glad that he's very innovatively come out with this idea, which would be very engagingly involving the youth of this country. Now, as the Principal Scientific Advisor was mentioning, it's been 1 year since we had this policy. And I think within 1 year, very subtly, there has been a transformation, because I, Professor Sood, many of us belong to the times when nobody could understand what was biotechnology. So half the people thought it was a branch of engineering, the other thought they were a branch of medicine. So it was very difficult to figure out that whether it was an engineer's concern or a doctor's concern. And we also seen those times when if any youngster did a course or a B.Tech in biophysics, he or she would be at a loss to find a job in India. So most of these graduates had to find a job outside India. And in the engineering streams also, it was the least preferred choice. And only those who could not find any other stream would opt for this. But there's been such a tremendous change. Only 3 years back, we had a small survey conducted among class 12 children, class 12 pass outs, and it was discovered that biotechnology has suddenly emerged as third or fourth choice amongst them. And this happens only when they find a lucrative livelihood potential or a placement potential, which has started happening. So nothing can sustain without getting linked with the economy, and that started happening. Now, even in the last 1 year, if you see, we have had a first of its kind biomanufacturing institute at Mohali. Dr. Parik is there, and you were another visit also to you. And we also launched the DVD BIORAC Mulankar, Bio Enablers, then the Bio AI hubs have been launched, BioE3s have been sought to be created in each of the states. Assam and Gujarat were among the first, and we were also among the first to have signed a formal MOU between the Department of Biotechnology and Department of Space, because as Professor Sood was mentioning, most of these experiments conducted by Shubhashu on board the D.E.S.I.G.N were created and developed by the Department of Biotechnology, and in fact, these were the experiments which were actually meant to be conducted by a biotechnologist, but we couldn't have sent him up the space. So someday we might. So I said we should have, because in fact I was telling Subhashu also, I said what you did was in fact a biotechnologist's job, but I must appreciate you that you proved to be a good learner and did it with quite a big perfection. But next time when one of you goes up, we'll be trying to train a biotechnologist to do that. And also, we may also have a space physician, like sports medicine was hardly a preferred branch about 3 decades ago, and it was rather would be a butt of joke, but now they are among the most heavily paid, highly paid professionals. So we have very futuristically moved in that direction, and I'm glad that it is also because of the futuristic approach of the Prime Minister that we could get this policy passed, because normally the political dispensations are not very favorably inclined to this heavily scientifically loaded cabinet notes. And Rajesh had to make a series of presentations, and the Honorable Prime Minister himself then explained to his colleagues that, okay, today might not sound very relevant, but tomorrow, of course, because that's precisely we try to submit before him, that tomorrow we would at least be counted among the early birds or the early initiators amongst the countries, because virtually every area is going to be biotechnology driven. As Professor Sood was saying, the personalized prescriptions, very soon, two patients suffering from same disease may have a different prescription, depending on their genetic profile, their environmental milieu. And so, two persons are diabetic, similar by all parameters, clinical and biochemical, would have a separate prescription. So, it's going to be a very fascinating times to come. Similarly, the prosthesis, as he was mentioning, we might have less of more acceptability of this process. Because one of the problems that was happening with many of the transplants was that the person has to be given immunosuppressive drugs for a long time to make it more acceptable. But in the process, some other dormant diseases wake up. The person who's getting treated for kidney transplant or post-treatment for kidney transplant suddenly finds that new malignancy has it. So all these things would be very fascinating. And of course, not only that, even the food world. We've already started animal-free milk. One of the startups from Bangalore is doing very well. They've even started exporting it. Because when the world, the requirement goes on increasing and you have less and less of land to actually fend for all these cattle and animals, this will be very happy. And tomorrow, maybe as Reddy has arranged a refreshment for you after this, he might arrange a vegetarian mutton for you or a vegetarian chicken for you, because it started already happening. So maybe your palliative taste, my buds may take some time to get used to it. So this is going to be a very fascinating time, and in fact everything is going to be driven. It's not being easily realized, but we are going to have it in every sphere of life, in plants, in animals, in life sciences. What Shubhashu experimented over there about biogenesis is not something which is relevant only to this space. Of course, there they sit for 2-3 weeks, the muscles get wasted, but it happens even amongst us. Of course, in diseases like type 2 diabetes, mellitus, or cancers, etc., it's already known. But even in common fractures, you have a fracture of the lower limb and you're asked to confine to bed for 4 weeks. Your muscles get suffered from disuse atrophy, and then you are asked to go in for physiotherapy. So the strategies which are being experimented over there are also relevant to us on the earth. And as I said, the day when he came, what was tested would not be relevant or useful only for the 140 crore Indians, but for the rest of the world as well. And therefore, I think those experiments which were facilitated by the Department of Biotechnology and the International Space Station, I think are one of the earliest indicators of Vishwa Bandhu Bharat. So you can understand how wide this is going to be, and of course, as was being mentioned, also going to be the industrial revolution, because even in economics, the considered view across the world is that there's going to be a paradigm shift from manufacturing to the regenerative processes to the genetic processes. Like in 90s, it was all different kinds of vehicles appearing, beginning from Suzuki and so on and so forth. So you'll have everything lab-driven, or maybe, and also waste to wealth. So everywhere this will come in, and therefore then, and of course, in the last 3-4 years, the awakening has been so much that suddenly there has been a spike in bio startups as well as biotech economy. It's rather embarrassing saying that before 2014 we had just 50 biotech startups across the country, 50, hardly a number to be. Now we have more than 11,000, 12,000 almost. Yeah. So, and they are doing wonderful job and also making a good fortune out of this. Our bioeconomy was just about 10 billion US dollar. In 8 years, it went up 80 billion, then 100 billion, then 130 billion. Now we are projecting as to 30 billion in the next few years. So I think now the stakeholders have started realizing, and therefore, who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders are the one for which this program has been launched. And this, as was being mentioned by Rajesh, this call for first National Biofoundry Network. I think this is quite an innovative idea for this the Biofoundry Network is going to include 6 institutions across the country to enhance developing of indigenous bio-based products and also to create skill in this domain. And second, of course, very important is the BIOE3 challenge for you, for which you very elaborately described every first of every month being call being made and the solutions being selected. So this is also give them incentive and also prepare them for the kind of tomorrow that is going to happen. So this is kind of an engagement to ensure capacity building in them and simultaneously also give them an idea of how they can make a livelihood out of that. And this is also because to that extent one can say that this is dedicated to the actual architects of the biotech story or the India's biotech-driven growth which is going to happen from tomorrow. And therefore, this youth for whom this challenge is being launched, and that's why I said we would also play some of these videos on the social media, particularly the first one, the 1 year journey, so that they know what it is all about, because some of them don't know, so they want to know. The others don't know that they don't know. So we have to cater to both. So those who don't know would keep looking for us. But those who don't know that they don't know would not even keep looking for us. So we have to also reach out to them so that each one is benefited, because ultimately they are going to be torch bearers of this future revolution. And the green global ecosystem that Professor Sood was referring to is going to be the ultimate target of this entire mission. And again, that would be spearheaded by these youngsters to whom this initiative is being dedicated. So thank you very much once again. I think this has been also, as I said, an auspicious day, and incidentally this also happened to be my last day in the North Block. But I'm glad to be the last man to have occupied that majestic office of DOPT, which was created by the Britishers 90 years back. So in more ways than one, this has become quite a landmark day. Thank you.